next book, I went off on a little bit of a tangent that wasn't very sciencey, but there is research involved in this book. And this is called Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari. Now, I really like Aziz Ansari. If you've seen Parks and Rec or any of the other things that he's in on TV, I think he had his own TV show on Netflix, but I can't remember what it was called. I love Parks and Rec, though. I think he's hilarious. Now, I do like comedy, but I haven't really read a lot of books that are comedy-based books. So that was an interesting concept for me, and it was a little hard to get over in this because everything else I've read so far this year is all science-y. But I think it's pretty interesting. It's from 2015, has about 250 pages, and it's a mixture of research and comedy. So, like the title says, Modern Romance, it's about modern romance. It's about relationships and how people find love in the 21st century. So, Aziz and the researchers that he worked with did a lot of research in interviewing people and going to different places in the world and understanding and trying to learn about their customs and how relationships function in those societies. Obviously, most of it's focused in America because the book is written by an American and published in America. But they did also interview people in Buenos Aires and Paris and Tokyo, and they had a Reddit page where they pooled a lot of data and got a lot of responses from different people around the world about their relationships and their experiences with different aspects of relationships. So they also got input from academics at Rutgers University, Columbia Business School, MIT, Stanford, and even more. So they did get professionals involved in this book, which is why it's partially a research book. So they also cover a lot of differences between the dating scene for people today, people that are in their teens and their 20s, versus what did that look like for people in my grandparents' generation when they were in their teens and 20s. So out of 5,000 marriages in Philadelphia in 1932, over 70% of them, so it's hard to tell with the shading here, but most of the graph, more than half of the graph, over 70% of the people in those marriages lived within 20 blocks of each other. Less than 20 blocks. That means if you go across town, more than 20 blocks, those people live further away than more than half of the people that got married in Philadelphia in the 1930s. So that's pretty nuts, because now in 2021, we have all kinds of possibilities. We have our phones and computers and the internet. We can connect with anybody as fast as we want across the world. But obviously, decades ago, they didn't have that technology, so the dating scene was way different, which was super interesting because now that's opened up all kinds of things like Tinder and whatever apps there are like that. And the pros and cons of people being on the internet, the anonymity involved with the internet. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad. But they did put a lot of research into this book. There's obviously statistics and numbers that I thought were really interesting as a scientist and someone that likes to analyze data. I did have a little bit of trouble trying to read through the comedy that was thrown in because the book is written by Aziz Ansari. I've seen a lot of his stand-ups, which I think are great, but I'm watching the stand-ups for the comedy, right? I didn't read this book for comedy. I read it to try and learn about relationships and what we understand about relationships in the 21st century. But there were parts where he would like throw in a joke and I would have to try and read it in my Aziz Ansari voice in my head, which kind of messed with the flow of reading the book for me, so that made it a little hard to get through. But I just haven't read a lot of books that are comedy based, so that was something that was new to me. So I can't say I got a lot out of this book in terms of direct application to my life, but I did think it was really interesting. I really appreciated their research. I do like Aziz Ansari, but I'm probably not going to continue reading a bunch of comedy-based books because it's hard to follow it all, and it doesn't flow as well for me as a reader. That's just a personal opinion. So if I recommend this book if you're interested in learning about relationships, either in the past or how they're different from relationships now. If you're in your teens or 20s and you're thinking about getting into the dating scene, it's always good to learn new information. So I would recommend it. I'm not going to highly recommend it, but it's okay. I'd also recommend it if you're absolutely in love with Aziz Ansari. He tosses in some snippets of his own life and his own dating experience in the book, which are pretty funny, but they also add some anecdotes about what he has gone through and what he has experienced in troubleshooting problems in the dating scene in the 21st century. And as you can see, he has his phone in the front picture, so he does obviously talk a lot about how technology has influenced relationships. So, okay book. Bye.